Well, the pressure is now on Congress to make a deal, fund the wall, and reopen the government. And lawmakers have been invited to the White House tomorrow to make it happen. So let's talk to Republican Congressman from Ohio, Jim Jordan, founding member of the House Freedom Caucus. Great to have you with us tonight.
Good to be with you.
Your reaction overall to the speech?
I thought it was persuasive. I thought it was presidential. I thought it was good. This whole idea that this is somehow a manufactured crisis the Democrats keep talking about is crazy. I mean, have they not seen this whole caravan phenomena play out over the last several months? The numbers Trace Gallagher just gave on the thousands of people who've showed up at the border, those with criminal records, those with possible ties to terrorist groups, the drug problem, the gang problem, the human trafficking problem. I thought the president did a great job of spelling out what's at stake here and making it kind of come home for people and feel what is actually happening on the southern border and why we need a border security wall.
There have been a lot of speculation and criticism from the left and mainstream media that he was going to declare a national emergency. Didn't happen tonight. We know he's going to the border in a couple of days. He'll probably speak from down there as well. I want to read something, though, coming from Jonah Goldberg, and he talks about the fact that if this wall was so important, why didn't Republicans, when they controlled the House, Senate, and the White House, get it done? He says this: the real crisis now isn't a national security one, it's a political one for Trump. And even if you favor a wall or enhanced border security, that is not an argument for the president formally declaring national emergency when there isn't one, and deploying the military without congressional approval on American soil. That would be a serious abuse of power, and Congress shouldn't stand for it one way or another. Well,
no, I think this is a serious problem. I think the American people understand that, and I think we got to do everything we can to get the border security wall done. But I do think it should happen with an appropriation from Congress. And Jonah is right in this regard. We should have done this in March. We should have done this. We were poised to win. Remember, just a few weeks before that March big omnibus, these crazy names we give things here in Washington, this big omnibus spending bill, just a few weeks prior to that, we had sent a short-term funding bill to Chuck Schumer, and he shut the government down. And he shut it down because he said amnesty was more important than funding our troops and funding the government.
Now, by amnesty, do you mean a solution for DACA?
That's what Chuck Schumer was talking about.
Okay, so legal status versus citizenship. Does that make a difference to you if you're going to use the word amnesty?
Well, he wants full
citizenship eventually.
He was totally wanting full citizenship.
But it's a difference to you.
Yeah, well, it sure is for us. I think it is for most of the American people. But that was the backdrop. Fast forward to March, we were poised to win the battle because when Chuck Schumer shut the government down, if you remember, the American people said, "You're crazy." And a few days later, he said, "Shazam, I'm going to open the government back up," because he saw what was happening politically. So we were poised to get it done in March. We didn't. That's unfortunate. But we are where we are now. And just remember, it was 3 weeks ago when Nancy Pelosi said there aren't the votes in the House in the last Congress. And yet we had 217 members vote for it. So the American people want this. This is what President Trump campaigned on. This is, more importantly, the right thing to do. The biggest problem, Shannon, is Democrats are more focused on stopping the president than they are on helping the country. And that's evidenced by Schumer was for this a few years ago, Pelosi was for this a few years ago, and now they're not because their political base they think is good for them in Democrat politics. Let's focus on the country. Okay, my understanding is what the Democrats in the House plan to do is roll out individual funding bills for different parts of the government, separate and away from what's happening with the border. Politico now saying this: House GOP leaders fear support eroding for Trump's shutdown fight. They say a senior House GOP aide said McCarthy and his top lieutenants believe 15 to 25% Republicans, or not percent, 15 to 25 Republicans will vote with Democrats this week, possibly even more. How worried are you about that? I don't think so. I'm not. Again, like I said, I thought the president's speech was right on target. I thought it was persuasive. I thought it was presidential. Last week, we only had 7 Republicans vote with the Democrats on one of these type of bills. I don't think you'll see the 15 to 20. But even if you do, Mr. McConnell has been clear he's not bringing it up. And the president has been clear he's going to veto it if anything ever got to him. So I think our voters, our members are strong because the American people understand this is the right thing to do.
Okay, we're out of time, so I have to ask you a yes or no question. If DACA is on the table as part of this deal, not for citizenship, but maybe for some kind of legal status, is that something you could vote for to fund the government, get the wall, and get this reopened?
I think we'd have to see it, but I think the citizenship question is the key question. But I think the key thing is the border security wall. Let's focus on that. Let's get past the Democrats being. I mean, we know how bad they are against the president, how strong they are against the president. What was the first thing Brad Sherman introduced at the start of this Congress?
Yeah,
an impeachment resolution.
Yeah.
So let's focus on helping the country. If we do that, I think we'll get the border security wall, and we can talk about the DACA issue.
All right, Congressman, great to see you. Thanks for stopping in late with us tonight.
Thank you.
All right, however you received the president's address tonight, one thing should not be missed. The president scored a major media coup. And what am I talking about? He got all the major networks to carry his address, galvanizing the attention of the entire country. And he accomplished something else. He got two of the least popular politicians in the nation to respond to him on his terms.
He wants to raise the stakes and make the Democrats the co-owners of this shutdown. And I think Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer are walking right into the trap. He brings everyone in, and this is the Trump trap. He negotiates through brinksmanship, and that's just not a way to get to a rational ending.
Okay, but this is rational?
The president is rejecting these bipartisan bills, which would reopen government, over his obsession with forcing American taxpayers to waste billions of dollars on an expensive and ineffective wall.
We don't govern by temper tantrum. President Trump has appealed to fear, not facts, division, not unity. There's an obvious solution. Separate the shutdown from arguments over border security.
Okay, now, the contrast should be glaring for anyone who watched tonight. The president was really sober in his address. He was extremely serious. And he genuinely believes that a wall is needed as part of a larger border security policy. That's what he campaigned on. That's what he won on. Democrats do not give a damn about securing the border. For them, this is all about scoring political points. And, of course, about 2020.
We have always been willing to talk to the president about border security, and many of us have supported some pretty massive investments in border security in the past. But we can't do that while the government is shut down.
We need to open up government and then negotiate, not the other way around.
We believe in secure borders, but we want the government open.
Once the government is open, I would support looking at a broader compromise on immigration.
All right. Don't believe anything they're telling you there for just not even a millisecond. The Democrats are targeting the 800,000 government workers on furlough. They're targeting them. What do I mean? They refuse to move even a millimeter, the Democrats, toward a common sense compromise with the president. Now, remember, a year ago, they were willing to give him $25 billion for a wall. Schumer ultimately pulled that off the table. But they were willing to do that. Now, today, they can't even come up with a measly $5 billion. Think of all the waste, fraud, and abuse in this town that they could trim away to get that $5 billion. We'll talk about that in a bit. The president has shown a willingness to compromise. You heard it tonight. In a funding request to the Senate Appropriations Committee this week, the president asked for items that are also important to Democrats. He alluded to this tonight. Of course, $800 million for humanitarian needs at the border, and that includes medical support and additional facilities to house migrants, which, frankly, a lot of Americans probably think would be better spent on inner city youth and our veterans. But nevertheless, the president's willing to go there. The president's also requesting $675 million for new technology to detect and stop the flow of illegal drugs over the border. Democrats have long said they wanted that. But Democrats don't want to have an honest conversation about border security. They are now the party of obstruction, and everything must bend to their resist Trump goals. The Hill reports that their latest strategy is to jam up the Senate by refusing to consider any legislation until the government is reopened.
This cannot be business as usual, that we shut down a quarter of the government and just leave it shut down. It's an incompetent strategy.
Now, just to give you a sense of how dogmatic, how rabid, and how fanatical this resistance to Trump has become, look no further than the Democrats who voted against considering a bill to support Israel earlier today. What? So we're not going to support oppose boycotts against Israel because Trump wants to do a deal on the border wall? How is that governing in a mature way? Now, I'm sure the new anti-Semitic wing of the Democratic Party was thrilled about this development in the Senate, but nevertheless, most Americans aren't. Again, don't focus on what they say. It sounds fine, kind of reasonable. Watch what they do. The Democrats want this shutdown to go on as long as possible to divide as many Republicans from the president as they can. They want to peel one off after another. And then they want to ratchet up the political pressure. Our safety and our security? Forget that. That's damned. If they wanted the government reopened, the Democrats could negotiate with the president and reopen the government tomorrow. He's already compromised on the structure of the wall, and he's dropped his asking price, as we know, way down. And while the Democrats feign concern over spending a few billion on the border wall, $5.7 billion, the coastal wonder twins of their party, Governor Newsom of California and Mayor de Blasio of New York, have all kinds of money. They find pots of money for the health care of illegal immigrants.
We will never waver in our pursuit of guaranteed health care for all Californians.
Health care is a human right. In this city, we're going to make that a reality. In this city, we're taking that ideal and putting it into practice. From this moment on in New York City, everyone is guaranteed the right to health care.
Well, they have no problem finding all that money falling from the sky to spend on the well-being and health of illegal aliens. My friends, like everything else, this is all about politics for the Democrats. Pretty much every demographic group in the country right now is better off than they were just a few years ago. Think about that. But the Democrats, they don't have any answer to that. It's not like they're going to go out there and argue, okay, we're going to offer these three policies, and they're going to raise your standard of living to a higher level than President Trump has been able to do. No, they've given up on that. All they have to run on is this shutdown and their opposition to the wall. Oh, sorry, and Trump's a racist. That's all they have. Oh, and for an added bonus, they actually believe that this stalemate with the shutdown furnishes them with another political weapon to, guess what, further the real nirvana for Americans, because this is really going to help your life get better, the impeachment agenda. Yes, Trump's threat to end the shutdown by declaring a national emergency, which never happened, and building the wall himself, could hasten the Democrats' ultimate desired end.
This kind of abuse of power may also open up other measures for Congress, because this, in fact, could hit the tripwire of abuse of power, which is also one of those things that could lead to a presidential impeachment.
I heard that this morning. I was like, wow, you're really spinning it out. Well, while the Democrats are straining to squeeze the last bit of political juice from the shutdown, the president's doing the right thing. He's focused on the security and the sovereignty of the American people and their prosperity. It's a posture that's good policy, but in time, it's also going to prove to be good politics as well. Mark my words. And that's the angle.